Hello everyone, this is Jess from the Estevan Public Library, and today we will be making cement flower pots just in time for spring. For this project, you will need some cement, something to mix your cement in. I'll be using this disposable cup and spoon, a small piece of cardboard, some tape or some glue, and 2 molds. You will need a bigger one, like this soup bowl here, and a smaller but taller one to mold the inside of your flower pot with, like this takeout container. I got these items at the dollar store, but this is a great project to use up any old recyclables that you have. You will also need something heavy to hold down your second mold with while the cement sets. I'll be using these rocks, and some newspaper to protect your tabletop, and some gloves and a face mask to protect your hands and face while you work with the cement. Let's get started. Before we start mixing our cement, we need to make sure that our workspace and molds are ready to go. I already went ahead and laid out some construction paper to help protect my tabletop. I also picked out my primary mold, which is the soup bowl, and my secondary mold, which is this takeout container. If you're using a plastic or mug, Tupperware, or tin recycled item, rub the inside with oil, like vegetable oil or canola oil, to help remove the cement later on. If you're using old cardboard or paperboard containers, like this or a milk carton, make sure that the bottom is taped around the ends to prevent leaking later on. Once you're all set up and ready to go, we'll make the mold for our draining hole. Take a long thin piece of cardboard and roll it up on itself. If you feel like your cylinder is too big, you can unroll it and cut it down to a more appropriate size. Make sure to keep the cardboard tight as you're rolling it. Once you're finished, take a little bit of glue to glue the ends together, or some tape and wrap a little bit of it around the cylinder. Once your cardboard is glued or taped together, place it in the center of your primary mold. Before you start mixing your cement, make sure that your face mask and your gloves are on. Once you're ready, carefully pour your cement mix into your mixing container, being sure to keep your face away as you pour. For this project, I'm using a cement mix that only needs water added to it. If you're making this at home, be sure to read the instructions on your cement mix for best results, as each one is a little different. For this cement mix I'm using, I need 4 parts cement to 1 part water. I had 1 cup of cement mix and ended up using less than 3/3 of a cup of water. When mixing your cement, pour your water in slowly and a little bit at a time to make sure your cement doesn't get too runny. While mixing, make sure to grab all the dry cement at the bottom of the cup and mix until smooth and just pourable. You don't want it too dry, otherwise it will be hard to pour, but you don't want it soupy either, otherwise it won't dry as nicely. Once your cement is mixed, carefully pour it into your primary mold, being careful not to move the draining mold too much. If you do, don't worry, you can use your spoon later to move it back into place. Fill your primary mold 2/3 of the way up and smooth out the top once you're done. Once you're ready, grab your secondary mold and gently press it into the cement until it reaches the top of your draining mold. Once your secondary mold is in place, you can smooth around the edges, making sure everything's even. If you have any cement left over, you can also use this to fill in the rest of the mold. I didn't have much left over, so I just went around and smoothed the edges down with the end of my spoon. When you're happy with how the edges look, take a heavy object and place it into your secondary mold. The heavy object will help prevent your secondary mold from floating out of the cement while it's drying. Once your mold is weighed down, set the pot aside in a room temperature area and let it set for at least 24 hours or a little bit longer if you think it needs it. Once you're sure your pot is dry, you're ready to remove the molds. So it is the next day, but my flower pot has taken a little bit longer to dry than I anticipated. So to make sure you're able to start on yours, this is part 1 of our cement flower pot videos. Part 2 will be posted tomorrow and the time is in the description below. If you can't wait until tomorrow, once your cement pot is good and dry, gently remove the secondary mold from the cement. You can press in the edges a little bit to help. And remove the primary mold and this draining mold as well. Once your cement pot is free, it's good to go. If cracks do appear in your cement or it breaks, don't worry. You can glue it back together by using a strong cement glue or Gorilla Glue. Make sure you wait at least 24 hours though before you add anything into the pot. Thank you all so much for joining me for part 1, and I hope you can join us for part 2 tomorrow.